Hey everyone, I'm Crystal Jigrup, and this is Empowered by Women. In August of 2021, I launched Book of Bijou, which is a line of chic and innovative jewelry storage. And in January of 2022, we expanded into what you now see as the Empowered by Women platform. I really wanted to create a centralized space where we can really put emphasis on our mission of women empowerment and community over competition. It really truly does fill my cup to be surrounded by so many of you inspiring women, and the energy that you bring to me and our platform on a daily basis is unmatched. You really all do fuel me with so much motivation to continue doing what I'm doing, and for that, I thank you. Before we jump into the episode, please be sure to follow or subscribe to us wherever you are listening, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite podcast platform. And also don't forget to share your favorite episodes with your fellow female founders so that we can continue growing our platform and furthering our mission. All right, let's go ahead and jump into this next interview with another incredible woman in entrepreneurship that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. Today, we have the beautiful Marielle Melling. She is making it easier for you to raise healthy, happy kids and teens and create a parenting life that you love. Obviously, parenting, being a mom, being in entrepreneurship, it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. So I'm super excited for this guest. But Marielle, she has a degree in health education. She's the founder of Love and Life with Littles. She's the author of Peace Amidst the Mayhem and the newly released The Butt Book, which we're definitely going to be diving into both of those because those sound so full of value. I can't wait to hear more about it. She and her husband are the parents of 5 incredible kids, but she loves helping others simplify their wonderfully crazy parenting journey so they enjoy a renewed sense of purpose, peace, and joy from creating systems in the home that work for you to help you build a stronger bond with your kids. Her insights and practical solutions are going to show you how to parent on purpose and that anything is possible. So beautiful. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation. Marielle, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Absolutely. So talk to us. I mean, 5 kids. Holy
Yes.
moly. I have 3 of my own. So let's start there. How old are your kids?
We go from 6 to 16.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. And then tell us about your journey. Like, how did you get started on this path to now serving other parents and helping them find the beauty in all of the chaos and all of the systems
Yes.
and that, like, what did that look like for you to even get to this point?
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, my degree is in health education, and I have been drawn to understanding people for as long as I can remember. I've always been a listener. When I was young, I was really quiet, and I like to think I was just listening. But so that's always been a piece of me, what makes me tick, figuring people out, figuring out what makes us happy, what makes us healthy, like what motivates us, all those kinds of big questions, so to speak. Loved teaching. And then when we had children, I decided to stay home and be a mom. And that has been such a blessing, such a joy. We went through some really busy, crazy times. I think everybody knows life happens, right? And so at one point, I had 4 part-time jobs that I was juggling. My husband was working insane hours for our family away from home. So the meals were on me, the home was on me, the yard, the carpooling and the school forms, communicating with teachers, all of the things. And I had this innate sense that I didn't want to be so stressed out during my kids' childhood because they were going to grow up no matter what, no matter how I showed up, no matter if I had figured my stuff out yet or not. They were going to grow up. And I really wanted to be present and enjoy it. I'd always wanted to be a mom. And so that was so important to me. So during that really crazy time, I got really intentional about my home systems and about the things that were going to bring me peace and the things that were going to allow me to connect with my kids. I would say, despite all the other things that were going on, right? Other challenges as well that our family was facing. And at one point, my mom said, Marielle, you've got to share this stuff that you're doing. This is something that you can do that would be like helpful for people. You've got to do this. And so I started blogging very, 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 very minimally. That wasn't one of my jobs. So it was, a hobby, maybe once a month type of a thing. And then I was working on something for the blog though, and I had always wanted to write a book, and I kind of had this shot of inspiration, like, this is the time you need to write your book this year. And I was like, okay, like I try to be in tune, pay attention to those gut feelings, you know? And at that point, I had no idea what my book was even going to be about. But so anyway, I just start writing. I start waking up early every morning, writing 500 words. I mean, we are like off the walls, like short stories for kids and, you know, fiction and nonfiction, all kinds of things, just seeing where I land and, you know, playing with that. And then I was working on something else for the blog, and it was supposed to be a 3-page thing. And it just started like flooding out of me. And it was so clear, like, this is your book. This is your book. And so that was my first book. That was Peace Amidst the Mayhem. And that really shifted the trajectory of the kinds of work that I started doing, really getting deeper into mindsets and beliefs and personal development, on top of that layer of, we got to get stuff done as parents. And so I took a coaching program, got certified in holistic health and wellness coaching, and started working with parents more, started doing a lot of other things that kind of now has gotten us to where we are. But that's the medium-sized version of the story.
Amazing. So one of the things that you said is that you've always wanted to be a mom. I'm the same way. But have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like, did you ever envision that as part of your journey?
No, I never did. In fact, like, I always wanted to write a book. Like that piece of me, yes. I would say when I was in 3rd grade, I remember wanting to write a book. The entrepreneur side, no. That was like a brand new, like my mom kind of, like I said, planted that seed. Excuse me. I had some other friends that were kind of doing similar work that was like, oh, like this looks interesting. This looks fun, you know? So it was almost by accident that I started. And then I very much loved it. And now it is a beautiful, like a piece of me that I'm able to do from home while being a parent. And so it has become a wonderful thing, but no, that was never the plan.
So talk to us about the transition. I'm really curious about, like, what were your initial thoughts and like your initial reaction when your mom was saying you need to do something about this, like turn into a business or whatever, share your story. Because often when it comes to moms, especially with multiple kids, when something else is being new and presented to you and potentially being added to your plate, it's usually like, I don't have time for that, right? So what was your initial reaction?
Yes. So I have to take myself back to that. That was many years ago now. And I think part of me kind of knew that I was going to do that already, right? I had this inkling that I was meant to share, because I was raised in such a way that I had this leg up in life. My parents are incredible. And I knew that everything that they had blessed me with and everything that I had learned over the years was not just for me. And so I had this inkling, I would call it an inkling, like a little piece of like, someday I'm going to do that type of a feel, right? But when it came down to actually doing it, and I would say it didn't start as a business at all, right? I remember writing a post and saying, you know what, if I make enough money to take my family bowling, I'm going to count this as a win. Right? Like it wasn't a business so much as I'm going to just do this thing, right? Even that, I would say, as a mom, it was hard to say I was going to do that, because like you said, we already have a lot on our plates. We already have a lot going on. And to say, I want to put some time towards this thing, which is not going to make money, which the world values, which is not directly related to my children, which was important to me, and which I hoped it would serve people. But at first I knew I was writing for like my mom and one sister, right? Like, so it's more like a like putting time into a dream rather than anything that's legit. Right. And so it was easy for me to do the jobs that, you know, that I knew I valued and that the outside world valued and those kinds of things. But I do remember at one point sitting at the park and I was watching my kids play, and I had been like humming and hawing about starting this. And I almost said, okay, I feel like this is what I want. I feel like I've hummed and hawed for long enough that this is what I want. I want to just try this thing, go out on this limb and put a little time into it. And I don't want to lose myself to it. And I don't want to lose my parenting life to it. So is that possible? Right? Like that was my big question. Like I want to be able to do it while keeping these other things that are really important to me as my priority. I had seen people who had lost themselves and lost their motherhood in business. And for some people, that's their choice. They feel good about that. I didn't want that to be for me. And so it was this kind of soul searching moment of prayer and coming to the decision. Obviously, we know the end of the story, but that yes, I could do that. I could try this thing. I could put time into this dream and still maintain those things that were so important to me and a vital part of who I wanted to be in my identity and things like that. And so, and I would say it's a constant how much time do you put in, right? And how much, and I think these are questions that all of us deal with. And it really, in the end, is like, that's what makes up our lives, is where are we going to put our time? Where are we going to put our energy? Where are we going to put our work and our soul and all those kinds of things? And there's no one right answer for anybody. So I would say you got to find what you feel peaceful about, right? Like what you go to the end of the day and you're like, I feel good about that. Yeah. It wasn't perfect, but it means we're dropping balls, but we're not dropping the balls that I care about most.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier that you, like, once you did decide to dive into this work, you also started doing a lot of mindset work. And you mentioned that it felt like you're just putting all this effort and time into this dream, right? Not something that's legitimate. So I think that piece really kind of reflects back to guilt, right? That mom guilt, that parent guilt of, am I really going to be spending time on something other than something that directly affects my children, that involves taking care of them or playing with them? So what was your mindset like journey like in that process of overcoming any guilt you faced? And how does it make you feel now being able to step away and spend time on the work that you do?
Hey, beautiful humans, really quick, did you know that hiring a virtual assistant saves people 14.7 hours per week on average? As our platform and my family continues to grow, I knew there was no way that I could keep doing it all alone. And I mean, who wants to anyway, right? So I finally made the leap to hire a VA, and it has been game-changing. iWorker actually came recommended to me by a friend who also has a VA that she loves from there. And there's so much more to the agency that actually really drew me to them and made me feel comfortable taking that leap and making the commitment to bringing on a VA, which is a huge decision. Not only does iWorker ensure that their VAs are top tier, they're committed to hiring people from countries in crisis where the work that you're providing really does matter. iWorker was actually co-founded by a Venezuelan immigrant in response to the Venezuelan refugee crisis, which is why their mission is so profoundly rooted the way that it is. And most of their team, which is 65% women, which we love, they're able to support multiple family members thanks to the income that they're receiving from iWorker. My VA has been an absolute game changer, and she has a little one of her own, which makes me appreciate her work ethic even more and makes me feel really good that I did make the decision to go with iWorker. So if you are ready to start taking that busy work off of your plates so that you can focus on the work that really does matter in your business and in growing your business, head to iWorker. They'll take care of all the things: social media, video editing, graphic design, copywriting, you name it. Head to iWorker. It is going to be an affiliate link that's in the notes, but just know I do not take that lightly, okay? I only share things with you that I really do know and that I actually use and 100% will continue to support. So again, that link is in the show notes, but let's go ahead and get back to the episode.
Yeah, that's such a great question, Crystal. And I think that it's really interesting because now I coach moms through this emotion all the time, because we all face guilt, right? Whatever it is, we somehow manage to find guilt around it. And so part of it for me was really coming to understand what is guilt and is that misplaced guilt. So when we're talking about guilt, it has a really beautiful purpose, right? Guilt is intended to help us do the right thing, to help us be better, to help us avoid the things that are going to hurt ourselves or the people that we love, right? And so when I started to dig in and get inside my own head and then do the same work with other women is, okay, I feel guilty because I'm not doing this or that, or because whatever else, right? And see if I can connect it in a short sentence. There's nothing, I would say, if I was doing something else and therefore neglecting my children, right, or not meeting their needs, or there's a lot of things that we could feel guilty about that would be legitimate, like, oh, I want to be better than that. I want to show up better than that. If your heart is in the right place, and if you're so intentional that you're able to say, like, this is my role as a parent, and what are the real consequences of this action, that's not something to feel guilty about. So for instance, this case where I'm talking about putting some time into a dream, I realized that I had gotten my life to a point where I had a little bit of space for that. I could, right? Like, it wasn't the season of parenting where my children needed me 24/7, and I could put some space somewhere, right? So where was I going to put that? With that, I realized, okay, so much of parenting is the example that I'm setting for my kids. And so what kind of example am I going to set? Am I going to set a martyr, like I don't have a life anymore? Or am I going to set this example that we try hard things, we do hard things, we fail? I mean, all of this happens in business, right? We try to do good for other people. We try to use our skills and our gifts to make the world a better place. And so, I mean, it started really small, but my kids got to see me. Oh, what are you working on, mommy? Right? Oh, I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes. You get to play by yourself, and I'm going to do on this. And we could talk about what we were doing. And it's so healthy for our kids to see us living alive and living whole and living in a way that we are fulfilling our individual purpose. And that purpose is going to be different for us. But if what you're feeling guilty about is a piece of fulfilling your purpose, and the lesson that you're teaching your children is to go for it and to dream big and to have a healthy whole life, that's a beautiful thing. Nothing to feel guilty about.
I couldn't agree more. Oh my gosh. It definitely took me a while to get to that mindset. But once I was there, and I finally allowed myself to just be in the moment of having gratitude for one, to be able
Yeah.
to pursue the dreams that I had, but then also recognizing how the mindset that I had was starting to trickle down into the mindset of my children, right? And then, like you said, being a living firsthand role model of, like, you can be and do anything that you want to be, right?
Yeah.
We tell that to them all the time, but how many times are we actually out there showing them that that's the truth?
Mm-hmm.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
What I love about your story is really, I think it's funny because a lot of times, especially with, this podcast, it's all about business. We're talking about, like, strategies in business, but you're kind of like flip-flops, where you already had strategies at home and now that has translated into your business.
Yes.
So talk to us about what strategies you already had in place at home before you even started the business. And then we'll go ahead and dive into the business side of things.
Absolutely. I think I could sum it up with systems, like intentional systems. So finding this clarity around, okay, what do I actually need to take care of? What do I need to do? And then finding a way to do that, and then doing it enough with enough consistency that it becomes easy, right? And that's how you manage a home. That's how you get out the door and exercise every day. And that's how you run a business that keeps going, right? So, I mean, that's a quick answer. What do you want to go into deeper?
Do you have anything that's, like, tangible? Like, you have, like, calendars listed out, or, like, actual things that the kids can help with, so you can see who's on top of what, and whether or not you're on track of all of the household duties. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah. So we have several things in place. I have a process for setting up systems, which I teach, and it starts with appreciation, right? Like appreciating the moment, appreciating the chance that we get to create in our lives, appreciating what's already going well and what we want to take forward. And then we plan it out, and we use the pieces of habit. So we talk about, we need a cue that's going to consistently get us going on this. We need the actual steps that we're going to take. And then we need some type of reward. A lot of us don't remember that. Like, we can't survive. We just don't survive forever on willpower, and neither do our children. So there's some type of reward baked into the system. and then we execute. And that includes refining the process and coming back. So some of the things that we have in place, we have systems for our like meal planning set up. We have who helps with when and how and taking care of the home, cleaning wise. For work, I have, systems for my analytics and systems for putting together content. And, we have our bedtime routine that includes this connection time. We have family time worked in so that is the time that the phones are put away, that we are just totally present. And maybe we're talking, maybe we're playing, maybe we're doing whatever, but that's family time so that happens consistently. That's a really, really big one for all of us. And what else? I mean, homework, like they have systems for getting their homework done. A lot of it really does become routine.
Yeah.
And that's when it's not quite so hard.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? The initial part of how do I make this consistent? Because so often we're, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to have this plan in place and this is what the day is going to look like. But then how easy is it to actually stick to the plan? So you mentioned having cues to make it easier. Can you give us a couple of examples of what kind of cues that you have in place?
Yeah, so we like to use the cues that are happening all the time anyway. So for example, like the kids walk in the door from school every single day, right? That's super consistent. So when they walk in the door, that is a cue. And what is it a cue for? It's a cue for putting away their backpacks, for putting away their leftover lunch, for packing a lunch if they want to take a lunch the next day, for reading time. It starts that whole routine, right? The same for after dinner. We eat dinner every single day. And when we get up, that's the cue for everybody helps out in the kitchen. So we take turns with doing the dishes and washing sweeping the floor, wiping down the table, putting away the leftovers, taking out the garbages. We rotate through those jobs. Person who is in charge of the dishes gets to pick the playlist for the music that we all listen to. So they're always excited. Oh, it's my turn for the dishes. That's like a little piece of reward. And then typically with that is like, after this routine is done, then that's when we're going to do this. And it's a fun thing, or it's more snuggle time at night or whatever it is, so that they know like, hey, when I get this done, then my reward is this next thing that we're going to do.
I love that there's still like all of those pockets of fun that are incorporated in. So it doesn't feel like this rigid, like, okay, you have to do this, and it's just like this robotic, like, oh my gosh, I can't catch a break.
Yeah.
But it's still fun, and it's still like a family thing that you're all doing together. It's a family effort. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So how much of the strategies and the structure that you have in place for your home life, how much of that translated into your business when you did decide to take that leap?
It's I would say like 75% of good parenting is personal development, right? It's figuring out your own baggage and your emotions and overcoming your fears and learning how to like actually do what you want to do, things like that, right? I would say it's the exact same for business, right? Like 75% of good business is personal development. So in that sense, the idea that you can take this system and then like take this framework for personal development or this framework for creating systems that work, that 100% translates over to business and being able to actually do the things that you need to do. The skill sets that I had to learn were all different. Like I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know anything about, the tech side of things and all that kind of stuff. So I knew how to teach. That was about it. But so like the skill sets that I had to learn were very new, but the process of becoming is, it's one and the same, right? So I start my last book. I start with a business story of me recognizing that I was procrastinating, and how many of us procrastinate, whether it's like the laundry that we don't want to do or the pitch that we don't want to make, whatever it is, it's that internal work is the root of our success, whatever scene you're looking at.
So do you have everything kind of like blocked out in your calendar? Like this is my work time and everyone in your family kind of knows, okay, mommy has to work.
It depends on the season. So
Okay.
I work full-time now, and it's very flexible, which is a gift and a blessing and also a challenge, right? So I have I can show you, everybody's at school right now. But I have a little red light, green light, super simple. I mean, we are talking very simple people, right? So if I am doing work that like I need to get it done, but it's not on a timeline or it's not on a whatever, I have an open door policy, and I'll either put the green light up or I'll have the door open. And then the kids know they can come. They sit in this little blue chair behind me. We chat. They tell me about their things, whatever it is. And that's important to me. Some people cannot work in that environment, like the interruption, like that does not work for them. So if that doesn't work for you, don't do that. And then I do have the red light, and that means either I'm recording or I'm teaching or I'm in a coaching session or I'm on a deadline. I got to get this done, you guys. So, and then they know that and they come back later or whatever. So when I was first starting out and I wasn't full-time, I was trying to put it into pockets. It was a very different picture, right? It was get the children settled and then work for 30 minutes as hard as I can, or wake up early or stay up later than them, or, it's a very different experience than it is now. I would say it's a lot simpler now, and they're older now. And so there are seasons. And if you're trying to do this with little kids, give yourself so much grace and give your children so much grace, because they don't get it. And it's really hard to be all the things to all the people at all the time. But yeah, so we do have that system in place as far as work time. And when in the school year, it's very, it's much easier now. When they're at work, when they're at school, I work. So it's simpler. But in the summer, and that's part of I told you, part of my value system was wanting my kids to know that they come first, even though this is something important for our family and important in my ability to serve other people and things like that, was having that flexibility and remembering I want to have kid time. I want to be present. I want to be there when they are hurt or down or going through something hard, or want to be there for the fun. So finding what works for you, I guess.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that you, well, first of all, before we dive into that, I love this red light, green light thing. I'm going to have to try that for myself. That is genius.
It's really awesome. And then especially when they're little and they're just understanding it, it's a visual cue that they can understand. And I can have the green light on. I used the green light a lot when they were little so that they would understand it, right? And then we would be chatting, and then I would say, okay, Mama needs to get some work done. Will you flip the light for me? And so they would flip it, and they when you're 4, that's pretty cool. And they totally get it. So yeah. I don't think I came up with it. I think somebody told me about it, but they had like a fancy from Amazon that is actually a light. I'm all about simplifying, but whatever works for you.
Cool with the paper. I'm fine with the paper. Yeah. But I'm definitely one of those people that there's only so much that I can do if there's constant interruption around me. Yes. Like there are definitely those tasks where it's like you need to have no distractions. Mm-hmm. You need to just have tunnel vision and focus and get it done and get it right. So I'm definitely going to try that out.
I would also say too, really quickly, if you can work it so that you have some time to really connect with your kids before you flip it to the red light, that's huge. Because if you can fill that bucket first that they have for attention and connection, and even maybe get them started in a little activity, then their own creativity can take off, and they're feeling safe and they're feeling secure. And that independent playtime is so much smoother if you have that connection time first.
I love that tip. That's a smart tip, because it's not like you're just walking away and diving into it and they don't understand what's happening, right? And they don't feel neglected, because you've had that time to connect with them already. And now they're like, okay, we've had our moment, and now mommy's going to go do her thing for a little bit, and then we're going to reconnect. I love that you have such a big communication channel with them. I think that's so important. So I'm obviously I don't know if you know, my kids are still young, 6, 4, and then a 5-month-old.
Lots of grace.
I'm very much in the season where time is very, very limited, and I'm just I gotta do what I can when I can. So a big thing that you coach your clients with is getting their priorities clear, right? And letting go of the stuff that doesn't matter. So do you have any just quick tips of how can we know what we should prioritize in those moments when we do only have 30 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 hours potentially to work in a day, but there's so much to get done?
Yes, absolutely. So a piece of that is intentionality upfront. A piece of that is sitting down and getting to know yourself so well that you know what you're going to feel good about when you go to bed, right? Like, this is what's going to feel like success to me. And I would say go really big picture. I teach what I call big picture parenting. So go really big picture even and say, okay, at the end of my life, what is going to feel like success to me? And I even have clients like write out your own obituary. It sounds weird, but it's a very introspective, really neat exercise to think, this is like in the big picture, who I want to be and what I care about and all those kinds of things. And then look at, okay, knowing that, what is my purpose? What is my purpose as a parent? What is my purpose as a business owner? What is my big picture purpose? And then what is my purpose in this season? Because we have definitely seasons, right? And if you haven't embraced that yet, please do. It will give you so much peace to know if I have to say no right now, it doesn't mean no forever. And if I am in a season of hustle, do not stay in that season forever. You will burn yourself out. Not that it never happens, right? But if you go in intentionally thinking, yeah, this is a season for hustle, and this is when I go on vacation, right? Or whatever that is. So a piece of that is this big picture, getting really to know yourself and what matters to you. And that really is experience and self-reflection, right? Do it. And then you go through your day and you're like, yeah, that didn't feel as good as I thought. Or looking back at the last 6 months, yeah, that was awesome, or it wasn't, and why. And learning, right? That's what life is all about. So that's a piece of it, that big picture intentionality. And then in the day-to-day, it's bringing yourself back to that priority. And I love to teach what I call the BUT principle for that. So my mom always used to say, BUT stands for bottom underlying truth. And if you think about the way that we use BUT, you say, I love you, but you're really ignoring me, annoying me. In that moment, the annoyance is more important than the love. That's the message that you're sending to that other person. That's the message that you're sending to your brain. That's the way that you are perceiving the situation, right? So we go throughout our lives, and let's say something frustrating happens. Let's say I have this, I'm trying to do this thing and the kid is doing this and I get all, in that moment, I take 3 deep breaths and just let yourself feel that emotion. If we try to squash it, if we try to ignore it, it just keeps coming back, and studies show it amplifies it, right? So we take 3 deep breaths, we feel that emotion, we name that emotion. I'm feeling really frustrated. I'm feeling discouraged. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling whatever that feeling is. And then step 2, we find our BUT. We find our bottom underlying truth, right? I'm feeling frustrated, but I already know, because I've already decided that my priority is my kids. Therefore, step 3, we make an intentional decision. So I am going to set this aside for a moment and handle this fire, whatever it is, right? So that's a mindfulness technique that is so powerful. And it's really neat because the more you do it, the more you're training your brain to respond differently to those stressors. And all of a sudden, that thing that felt like an interruption is really like, no, that's my life's work. That's what it's really about. This other thing, that can wait, right? That can go on the back burner for a moment. And sometimes your BUT has to be, I committed to this thing and I really want to do this thing. And so therefore, I'm going to have my kids play independently for now, or I'm going to call in some help. I'm going to call in some support. I'm going to, whatever it is. But in the moment, if we keep bringing ourselves back to our priorities, that's when we go to the bed at the end of the day and we're like, I didn't do it all, but I did what matters most to me. And that feels really darn good.
Oh, so powerful. And it's such a simple switch of the way that you're phrasing it, which I really love. But I think that intention piece is huge, and having those moments of self-reflection, so you're not stuck in this just daily grind of do, where you forget everything you're working towards in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that there are different seasons, but make sure you don't stay in the season. I think that's another key piece that people forget, right? Because we think that we have to keep building and keep building and keep building. But at some point, you got to stop and then reflect on all the things that you built, and then refine, and then rest and recuperate, right? And do all of the things so that you can amplify what you've already built.
Mm-hmm.
So you kept talking about butts. That's the
Yes.
perfect segue into this next part of it. So tell us about these books that you have. I think you've given us a little bit about the butt book. What was the title of it?
Yes, it's the butt book. That's
Oh, it is
that's
called
my
The Butt
new
Book.
one. Yes. Yeah. And it really is. So as it's really funny because like my first book, Peace Amidst the Mayhem, people hear that title and I'm like, that is the best name for a parenting book. And I'm like, yeah, that would be a really good name for a parenting book. It's not really necessarily a parenting book because as I've done this work, I told you, like 75% of good parenting, 75% of good business, it's personal development. So they are both personal development books. And we do our kids an incredible service when we start with ourselves, right? So if I can figure out how to find peace with my life and really exude that, that's going to do more to teach my children how to have a peaceable life than anything else, right? If we have embraced that. So that's the first one, is Peace Amidst the Mayhem. And it really is how to, I would say in a nutshell, care about love, right? That's the spoiler alert, is that inner peace happens when we are aligned with what we are thinking about, what we want, what we care about, and what we're doing. And that clash happens when like I'm doing something, but I really want to be doing something differently. Or when I'm thinking and expecting, but that's not aligned with the reality, right? So the highest level of that harmony happens when it's centered on love. And that is, our research forever is teaching us back to decades and thousands of studies that the number one predictor of health and happiness is our relationships. And if we are sacrificing our relationships for anything else, we're going to regret it at the end of the day. So how do we actually care about that most, right? When there's lots of things we care about. We care about accomplishing, and we care about praise, and we care about, holding on to a grudge and all these other things. So how do we actually care about that most and center our lives on that? That's the first one. The butt book is based on this butt principle, and it is really figuring out for ourselves what matters most. And then how do I actually do that thing? Because in real life, it's hard. Like, I know what to do. How many times in business, I know what to do. I know I need to be consistent, or I know I need to do this, or whatever it is. I know I need to stop yelling at my kids. I know we know, but actually doing it is a whole different story. And so that's the butt book, is figure out what matters most and then actually do it.
Beautiful. And then where can our audience find those books?
They are both on Amazon. That's the easiest place to search them up, or type my name in. They might pop up. loveandlifewithlittles.com. Everything's also linked on there if that's easier.
Amazing. And of course, we will link everything in the show notes. But I do have one final question for you. If you were to give our audience today, especially all the mamas out there, a little bit of a homework so that they can start finding this peace amidst all the chaos, what would that homework look like? What would you have them do?
That's a great question. I would suggest being mindful in your day today, and just tune into yourself a little bit more and ask yourself the two questions: what do I care about right now? And what do I care about more? And it's really beautiful, because once we kind of open our eyes to living in the present, it just amplifies our appreciation and our gratitude and the connection that we have with our children, and the connection that we have with the people that we interact with in our business, and the joy that we get from our work, rather than having it be a task that I have to do. There's a lot of a depth of experience that we miss out on when we are just full bore ahead, just get the thing done, just muscle through, which sometimes we have to do that too, like we said, seasons. But that would be my invitation, is to even if it's 10 minutes a day, start being a little bit more mindful about your life and being present and what you care about, what matters most to you. And then are you doing that? Are you living that way?
I love that. So good. So good. Are you on social media as well?
Yes.
Okay. Where else can the audience connect you? I know
Yeah.
you already said your website and where we can find your books, but where else are you?
It is the same handle, loveandlifewithlittles.com, or Love and Life with Littles on Instagram. Facebook, I'm not actually there. Like, things automatically get posted there. But if you comment, I probably won't see it for a year and a half. Instagram, I am active on that, and it's Lovin without a G, Lovin, Life with Littles.
Beautiful. Marielle, you have been amazing. Thank you so, so much for sharing all of your insights. I'm definitely taking back a few little nuggets with me in my day-to-day, and hopefully we can get a little bit more structure and routine going on here, and consistency. That's been a little bit of a pain point. So I
Yes.
am absolutely taking what you said and I'm going to run with it. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Thank you.
Another incredible interview with yet another inspiring woman in entrepreneurship. I hope you guys loved that episode just as much as I did. But before we leave off, if you yourself are also a woman entrepreneur, I would love for you to consider joining our Empowered by Women directory. We're looking for women-owned product and service-based businesses in the US to help us build the go-to place for our communities to find local women to shop with and connect with, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. All of the details can be found on www.empoweredbywomen.com/apply-directory. Of course, that's going to be linked in the show notes below, and you're also welcome to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. But other than that, thank you again so much for joining us, and I will see you in the next episode.